A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 114th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Long back in April 2020, when we had first gotten into the lockdown, the pandemic had just set in and schools had just closed. We thought it would last for a month or so. Well, little did we know that more than a year later, we would have covered over 114 episodes. And I thank each and every one of you for the kind of love and support that you've shown to this particular initiative. We've discussed a myriad range of topics. We have discussed the curricular, the extracurricular, the co-curricular. However, today we discuss what, to me, is a very, very important part of what endears a teacher to the student: humor. Today, we will talk about humor in the classroom. Well, teaching is serious business. Long back, teachers were always portrayed in movies by the most serious, sour-faced people possible. However, over the time, we have seen the value of humor increasing in all walks of life and justifiably so in teaching as well. Today, we look at how important humor is in the classroom and how it can be used to great advantage. To speak on this topic, our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Barrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. And we at Notebook are proud to have him as a senior advisor. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Bayu. And a very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, all our guests, and especially the team of Notebook. That's you, Achin, Abhishek, Meghna, Gagori, and all the others at Calcutta. Yes, I like your adjective, sour-faced and stern teachers. You know, we had a lot of them in my days. But it is generally accepted that children learn best from those who they love. And to which I'll add that children only learn from teachers they like, respect, and don't fear, because fear drives out all possibility of learning. Humor not only helps students relax and learn, but it also gives the teacher a better control of the class and a deeper authority. No doubt, humor on its own will not get a teacher very far. But if it is blended in with his subject competence, correct timing, trust will be built in, and that teacher usually gets, respect. Teachers and elders who know themselves and who don't take themselves too seriously will also be the ones who make teaching fun, light, interesting, while the serious types may finish the syllabus and have obedient classes. But does that seriousness and that gravitas translate into good learning is quite another thing altogether. And humor goes much beyond just jokes and funny stories in class, even though these may enter into a lesson. Humor is also about seeing the lighter and funnier sides of serious topics and discussions. It's about not taking things too seriously and believing that this is not rocket science that we are all teaching, especially these days when data and subject knowledge is so freely available to students. Sometimes we teachers make a mockery of ourselves by taking things too seriously because the kids can get what we have. Humor is also about punctuating the lesson with smart sayings, funny comments, interesting mnemonics, or breaking up the lesson with funny stories. Because as we all know, this attention span of little kids is not more than 7 to 10 minutes. It is also about letting our hair down and showing a more natural and human sides of our teaching persona. I had a particularly humorous teacher who had this admirable trait of putting a point across in a way that got everyone to laugh. So when he addressed a backbencher who needed a haircut, all he said was, "Mr. Atkins, your hair is so wavy, it's making me seasick." Or on another occasion, when someone hadn't submitted his homework, He said, no wonder you haven't completed your homework. What were you doing with your tongue draped over the St. Mary's wall? St. Mary's being the girls' school that shared a common wall with our school. And another occasion when a strange smell emanated or diffused through the classroom and everybody held their noses, he said, Atkins, do consider yourself lucky that I don't light a match over here. So these were ways in which, we had a laugh and he broke the lesson. Once in the swimming pool, a gentleman a teacher had all the juniors jump out of the pool when he announced over the mic that there was a special chemical in the water through the filtration plant that would turn the water yellow if any student misbehaved and relieved himself in the water. And he had all these people jumping out. Another English teacher of mine taught some important grammar rules, like the difference between I and me, how to say Ramesh, Mohan, and I, rather than say I, Ramesh, and Mohan, and the difference between may I and can I, through humorous, laughter-filled lessons. Humor, I think, is the sugar that coats the pill here being the difficult lesson. And time flies when teachers incorporate humor into a class. In most schools, students have a way of getting back at their teachers, whether it be on the sports field, tennis courts. They love beating their teachers. This is their time to give us a push around, or also lampooning us in school publications through cartoons and funny quips. Within limits, teachers are also, teachers who are the subject of school skits and cartoons never lose their respect with students. In fact, it draws them closer to students. Now, at the Doon School where I work and where Vidukesh was, we had a weekly magazine, which of course was edited by a teacher to see that things didn't get out of hand, but it gave the boys a chance to pull our legs. And we had a particularly interesting little column called Unquotable Quotes. And this was a way that they got to pull our legs. I'll give you an example of an unquotable quote. This was said to a very popular and very much loved physical training instructor of ours. And the quote went, he says, early to bed and early to rise makes a man a PT master. And we all had a laugh over that. Now, there were cartoons too, which told us exactly how the students felt about us staff. And most cartoons have a message behind it. And if we read the message behind the humor, it teaches us so much. I learned so much about myself and I made amends in my own life because of what the boys quipped and said about me and cartooned, me with. Most teachers did not like the fun that children made of them. And as Vidukesh will tell you, at the end of our house feast, we had a small, very impromptu performance. These are small skits. And these were times when they laughed at us and we laughed with them. Even at staff games with the boys, whether it be cricket, hockey, or whatever, teachers played to win, but we never minded losing gracefully. There was so much healthy camaraderie after the games that no one carried any ill feeling or ill will from the ground. Now, there has to be a time when a teacher needs to reveal his underbelly and that side that he keeps away during his class time, especially in residential schools where we live so closely with the boys. It's not difficult. The students know our every weakness, our idiosyncrasies, just as we know theirs. Midterms, or the midterm treks that we went on biannually, was another time where over the bonfire at the end of each day's trek, there was much leg pulling and good humor, and that drew us closer to the students. And the important thing was that we got all the respect from this class the day after the treks, and we went back to class. It was over, the fun was over, and now they took us seriously. Now, I know that we did a series of cartoons for the weekly called Epitaphs. This was, cartoons. If we imagine that if the staff happened to pass away, what would the gravestones read? And of course, the master in charge of catering he died drinking his own soup. And a rather short, stout maths teacher who was hardly 5 feet 2 inches had on his epitaph, "Here lies a round peg in a square hole." Things like that. A very strict and rather draconic physics teacher who was something like Dr. Spock from Star Wars, had "Here he lies in death, as in life, stiff." Now, there are also funny articles that appear in the weekly. For example, we had a column called the Doscars, which is a spoof on the Oscars, where each teacher was given a movie where the main character came very close to the character of the teacher. And things got a bit out of hand when a rather large, disheveled teacher with dubious eating habits starred in the movie Godzilla. Or our very senior master, who was a legend, who never missed a trick, and he knew exactly what the boys were up to. He was called Bond. Now, giving teachers pet names or sobriquet is another way students have a laugh at us, and we can have a laugh at ourselves. And I know that some teachers don't like it. One particular teacher had to go up to the headmaster every week because he complained about the cartoon, only to be told by the headmaster that when children have a sobriquet or a pet name for you, you've come to stay, you've made your mark. And in the classic movie, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which was about an English teacher in an English public school, where Peter O'Toole starred, I remember the time when Peter O'Toole came into the staff room and he complained that the boys were calling him by another name, to which one teacher asked, "What are they calling you?" He said, "They're calling me Ditchy." So the teachers remarked, "That's not a bad name." He says, "No, but it's a shortened form of ditchwater." And they all had a good laugh, which leads me to another point. Staff rooms are usually places where there's a lot of humor flying around. And just like armies in the trenches, I think it's important to have a laugh at yourself, because the work that we do is also serious. You know, war is serious, teaching is serious too. So when do we let our hair down? Now, all this light-hearted humor was part and parcel of the life that we led in residential schools, where I said we lived in close proximity with the boys. You know, they love pushing us around on the football field in the evening. And yet, the next few hours later, you know, the boy was in our arms because he had sad news of the death of his grandfather. He was inconsolable. So that closeness comes when you can share your life, can be humorous, and yet you can be their mentor. Now, there's so many stories about boys having jumped the wall at night to see a movie. And when they thumbed the lift, a car stopped to pick them up. And it happened to be a teacher from the school, their headmaster, who without a word said, "Jump into the car, boys." And he promptly drove them home. And not a word was said. They were not taken up to the headmaster. And this was the life that we had. We trusted them. Life is so difficult these days for students. The stress is so high that anything that discharges pent-up emotion, such as good humor and banter and healthy ribaldry, is always a good thing. It also teaches students to be sensitive to the feelings of others. As long as we keep away from hurtful humor, away from religious and political and communal sentiments, everything is allowed. The idea is to laugh with people and not at people. I mean, Shakespeare once said that the pun is the lowest form of humor. I think that another form of humor which doesn't work well with students is sarcasm. Sarcasm can be hurtful, and I would rather keep away from a sarcastic sort of humor. As a housemaster, I learned a lot about my boys just by tuning into the humorous quips and banter around the meal tables. I got to know where things were hidden, what they were planning that night, just by keeping an eye on their brand of humor. It taught me so much. Once I slept in the house in a boy's bed because there was a vacant bed. Somebody was in hospital. And I discovered, the boy was missing. When I did my last round at about 10, 11 o'clock, he was missing. So I slept in his bed and I pulled the mosquito net over me, only to find that the boy had come back at 2 in the morning and rolled in with me. And he, of course, jumped out because he knew that someone was in his bed. And all I said was, we will carry on this conversation tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in my study. And that's my dry sense of humor. Not making an issue out of every small thing and being able to lose the battles but win the war is an important training for teachers. we sometimes take up every small issue and make a big issue out of it. Sometimes it's not important to go for a win-win situation as a teacher. I once gave away a game. I lost a game with, against a very naughty little junior. He thought he had won, but I actually threw the game because I wanted a lose-win situation. Having lost the match, I won him over. He was now going to be eating out of my hand, and I would make something of him. Another teacher at Doon, I will end by a little quip. This is where humor in the old days was so important. He wrote for a boy, a rather naughty kid in class 6. He said, has the propensity to join bad company. In class 7, for the same boy, he wrote, has joined bad company. And in class 8, he wrote, is bad company. And all this was taken in good spirit. So I would want to end now, Shabayu, by saying that, you either are humorous by nature or you're serious by nature. But I also think that over the years, teachers can develop their brand of humor. We all are different. We all have our own brand of humor, depending on our backgrounds and what we read. And it's the way we interact with children. And humor is important. It's an important ingredient of the classroom. It does so much for the soul. It does so much for the camaraderie and the learning. And with that, Subayu, I'm going to hand this over to you. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those absolutely hilarious incidents. You almost took us into a very Rockfordish kind of a mode where we could perhaps live some of those boarding school moments with you. The sense of humor has always been a manifestation of the amount of confidence a lot of people have in themselves. When you were talking about teachers deciding to participate in humor about them, I was reminded of how back in 1962, after the Sino-Indian War, R.K. Lakshman drew this not very flattering cartoon of the then Prime Minister, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. And next morning, he received a call from Jawaharlal Nehru saying that, I really loved your cartoon in the paper this morning. Can I get a signed, enlarged copy for me to frame? Or maybe the Correspondents Association dinner at the White House, where every president actually stands by, makes fun of himself, something that Barack Obama really, really used to his advantage. So thank you so much for sharing those incidents. We are enriched by your presence here. Our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a very interesting and relevant topic. Any workplace needs laughter. According to research from institutions as serious as Wharton, MIT, London Business School, every chuckle or guffaw brings with it a host of business benefits. Laughter relieves stress and boredom, boosts engagement and well-being, and spurs not only creativity and collaboration, but also analytical precision and productivity. Teachers are constantly looking for ways to liven up the lessons and to build stronger relationships with their students. Because today, in today's world, if you see, students are living with so much of pressure to succeed, which at times is really overwhelming, right? Thus, comedy can help to alleviate that stress and anxiety and can help students relax and be more amenable to learning. However, humor at times is risky because an expressor's humor attempt can fall flat in different ways. First, if the target or audience perceives the humor attempt to be merely benign, it might not be obvious that the expressor was attempting to use humor at all. Second, if the humor attempt is not interesting, exciting, or entertaining, then the target or audience may view the humor attempt as boring. And third, the most risky category, where it may fail by offending someone in the audience. Imagine cracking a joke and ending up hurting someone. Also, at times, simple issues like, say, for example, the art of making jokes in a second language needs really careful nurturing. Now, if individuals tell appropriate jokes that make others laugh, they are likely to signal both confidence and competence. On the other hand, if individuals tell inappropriate jokes that do not make others laugh, they are likely to appear undoubtedly, confident but less competent. Now, I'll narrate two real-life incidents to demonstrate this. How humor at times can really act in extreme ways. First, let's discuss about a success story. Dick Costolo, the former CEO of Twitter, began his career in improvisational comedy, and he attributes much of his success in business to his use of humor. The night before Costolo joined Twitter, and initially he joined as Chief Operating Officer, and that was way back in September 2009. He tweeted, "First full day as Twitter CEO tomorrow, and task one, undermine CEO and consolidate power." Of course, that was in a very lighter note. A year later, he actually became the Chief Executive Officer. He became the CEO of Twitter. So just as humor can contribute to career success, like when we discussed about Costolo, it can even lead to a free fall and losing everything overnight. And again, I'll cite one example. December 2013. I remember before leaving Heathrow for South Africa, I read this, that Justin Sacco and a public relation representative for IAC, and IAC, as you all of you are aware, a media and internet company, tweeted, "Going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white." Her humor attempt provoked a firestorm of criticism and ultimately cost Sacco her job. So Costolo's experience suggests, the first one, when we discussed about Twitter, suggests that humor can help an individual climb up the corporate ladder. But in second case, Sacco's experience offers a very cautionary tale of the inherent risk in using humor. We postulate that humor can profoundly influence status, and we argue that humor is pervasive as well. Now, from corporate world, let's get back to school. Experienced educators in this forum today are very much aware that when it comes to an effective classroom environment, a sense of humor is essential. Bytes also gave some brilliant examples, real life examples. And I'm sure our esteemed panel that we have today, they will enrich us further with some real life incidents, case studies, etc. And when asked, most experienced teachers will readily admit that they encourage humor and laughter in their classroom, and at times plan it into their lessons. But my question is that what is the role of unplanned and spontaneous humor? Moments when the whole class momentarily erupts in laughter before returning to the task at hand. Say, for example, it helps in developing a spirit of informality, makes the teacher far more approachable, encouraging students to speak and applaud their efforts, being supportive when errors are made. I remember one of my favorite teachers at school sometimes demonstrated in a humorous way unfamiliar sounds which are difficult to pronounce. If he ever made an error on the board, he would make a quick quip to show that he was not embarrassed and to demonstrate that mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. When it is appropriate to pull individuals into line, He used to do so firmly, but with a very light touch, returning to the business of lesson as quickly as possible. By disciplining students with humor, he would reduce the risk of alienating potentially tricky individuals. Many learners quickly absorb the message that their teacher welcomes spontaneous laughter within the classroom, provided we are discussing about the supporting, laughing with, and not the destructive laughing at kind. Sensing that the teacher has given them permission to laugh, many start to relax and behave in a really responsive way. However, educators in this forum would agree that not all classes are equally responsive to the humorous initiatives of the teacher. For a variety of reasons, students in some classes remain quite unresponsive throughout the course. Sometimes it takes longer for classes to relax and become, more approachable, readily responsive. Teachers can often pinpoint a particular moment when the class laughed spontaneously for the first time. Maybe a very, very trivial event. But when this happens, the teacher relaxes, feels far more, confident in control, and is inspired to teach more imaginatively and enthusiastically. At times, students who are quite close to the teacher, students who readily act as volunteers, at times can provide a focal point for the class, enabling shy individuals who are more shyer, to enjoy the interaction by watching and listening and laughing on cue. So of course, over the years, experienced teachers develop such personal, tried and tested techniques, as sir also referred to, in the form of maybe gestures, playing with words, well-known quips, and so on. They know from their experience that how to actually take the class along. Interactive learning activities, how to ensure the students maintain a perfect balance. At times, yes, students tend to get overexcited and laughter can get out of control. But I believe as the session progresses, each class develop their individual culture, bodies of shared understanding about personalities, passion, strength, weakness, uh, about individuals within the class, collective memory of small incidents that have occurred in that particular class, a sense of friendly intimacy, which ensures that short bursts of laughter to be invoked by reference, either by the teacher or by the student, to previous events that the class found amusing. So, of course, humor is a very powerful force in any situation, and is a highly complex phenomenon. There are obviously times when humor is detrimental to the well-being of an individual. For instance, teasing. While some students are happy to be foregrounded, for example, by given a nickname, others are not, and this is serious. Now, although there's a potential to be used unwisely by students, experienced teachers, of course, see laughter as a positive force in their classroom, as a welcome behavior, and cultivate it, nurture it carefully. It's a reassuring sign that the class is functioning cohesively and responsibly. Now, of course, because see, when we discuss about good teaching, it's far more than technical proficiency, as all of you in this forum would agree. Encouraging each student and ensuring that individual students function collectively, that's a huge task, of course. So judicious use of humor is a great way to encourage the class to develop into a friendly, lively, mutually supportive social groups. Now, another thing is, in today's time, if you look at this pandemic, last 1.5 years, what all of us have gone through, I believe that sense of humor really helps in dark times as well. It makes us more resilient, creative, and resourceful. So it's more than ever important, especially during a pandemic. I was reading about a very insightful incident which I wanted to share with all of you. This is about a young Canadian man who was on a business trip in Mali. He was staying in Radisson Blu Hotel in Bamako, and this particular hotel was stormed by Islamist militants, and ultimately around 170 hostages were taken and 20 people unfortunately lost their lives. Now this young man, and why this incident is related to humor, I'll tell you. This young man was on the 7th floor of the hotel, and when gun battles exploded directly below him, it was not possible for him to escape. So he locked himself in the bathroom and he started texting. He texted his wife, his family, and he texted his friend. He asked his friend, and his text was that things are a little tense inside the Radisson at the moment. So Simon, any English humor available? He was looking for jokes. Imagine the hotel has been taken over by terrorists. He could hear gunshots. He could hear explosions. He was hiding in his bathroom in 7th floor of the hotel. And he's sending a text to his friend asking for English humor. His friend replied, "Is the fridge stocked? They probably won't charge you for it." Their thread stretched across 3 hours. 3 hours. Simple things like, did you cancel your business meeting for the day? What will you write on the hotels? Tell us how we did card, etc. He was eventually rescued. His last text read, "Out and safe." Commandos saved his life. But humor helped him carry through. It helped him stay calm, intact, be himself. And under such huge pressure, unimaginable pressure, where at any moment he could lose his life. So there's a wonderful book called Humor Seriously. The name of the book is Humor Seriously, co-authored by Jennifer Acker and Naomi Bagdonas. They watch hours of stand-up comedy, interviewing comedians, training in the world's best comedy institutions, and teaching in Stanford University. So they've now written this book on their findings entitled, and its message is that humor is an unappreciated and underused superpower. Laughter triggers happy hormones and suppresses, cortisol, the stress hormone. So according to Bagdonas, some people believe this is too serious a time to laugh, and he's referring to the pandemic. But he believes, according to the author, this is when we need humor more than ever. Because with this global pandemic, the shift to remote working, loneliness, depression, rising so much, many of us never felt so disconnected. So when we laugh with someone, whether through a screen or 2 meters apart from us, we get the cocktail of hormones that strengthen our emotional bonds in a way that wouldn't otherwise be possible. So studies show that it makes us more resilient, creative, and resourceful. So the author had a unique take on this, and I was reading this book, wonderful, of course. So these are a few things that I wanted to share with all of you. I thank all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. We have a wonderful and very experienced panel here today, and I really look forward to the deliberation on this topic. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for sharing those wonderful stories from around the globe and the importance of humor, not only in the classroom, but stretching all the way to the boardroom as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic panel lined up for you today, as Achin mentioned. Before we start the discussion with the panel, I'll just take a couple of minutes to tell you a little about Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech organization. We make short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. These videos come in handy in 2 places. One, when you as a teacher are teaching your class, whether it's online or offline, you can use these videos to develop a visual understanding in the way of an introduction to any topic that you're teaching. That is where these videos come in handy. The second place where these videos come in really useful are when students want to revise these chapters at home. Yes, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices at home. Whether it's a laptop or a smartphone or whatever device they have, they can access Notebook and watch those videos over and over again, as many times as they want and whenever and wherever they want. This gives them a visual aid to remembering what you had taught in class that day. What I'm going to do now is play a short clip of one of the Notebook videos so that you know exactly what it is that I'm going on about.
The Vijayanagara kings or Rayas competed and sometimes fought with the sultans of the Deccan and the Gajapati rulers of Orissa. They were also influenced by the architecture and culture of their rivals or competitors. The Rayas were also influenced by the past tradition of South India, especially the Cholas of Tamil Nadu and the Hosalas of Karnataka. The Rayas needed horses to maintain a good cavalry for their wars with other kingdoms. Arab merchants and local Kudirai Chettis or horse merchants controlled and managed the import of horses from Arabia and Central Asia to Vijayanagara. Vijayanagara was a prosperous place where wealthy customers demanded high quality exotic goods. the market sold spices, textiles, precious stones, and jewelry for these customers. The revenue from the trade made the empire rich.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is how notebook videos are, where hand-drawn illustrations, cartoons, and so much of art is used to explain school topics in an engaging way. At Notebook, beyond content for education, we also conduct events for schools and students. This year, we have partnered with the IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, and we are putting together an event called the Notebook Ignite. This is an international inter-school online innovation and entrepreneurship challenge. We are asking young students to don the hat of entrepreneurs, look around themselves, pick up any problem in society that they want to solve, and come up with an innovative solution. We have already had more than 64 schools registered, and now the schools are slowly gearing up for the live rounds. As and when the live rounds come up, we'll definitely keep you informed, and we will invite each and every one of you to participate in the event and provide inspiration to our young learners. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the important plug-in bit for Notebook. Now it is time to introduce the wonderful, wonderful panel that we have at hand today. We have with us today Dr. Rupali Dhamdhere, a dynamic and phenomenal principal who knows how to lead difficult but critically important situations, going beyond the day-to-day demands of a position to create an exceptional educational environment. With 7 years of experience in banking and 20 years in the education sector, from teacher to the principal, she has molded her leadership style for teamwork, efficiency, and the work ethic to keep getting better. Yet, make no mistake, Dr. Dhamdhere is best described as an inspirational leader. She has a way of motivating teachers and students alike to work hard, keep a good attitude, and be socially responsible. She believes teaching is just not a profession, but a platform to be resourceful, thereby helping to push the community into raising responsible citizens. She says, I strive to play an important role in the education and personal growth of children and adults by encouraging them to maximize their potential while promoting the interpersonal and communication skills essential in creating a positive and productive working environment. She is currently the principal at Trinity International School. Her formal education, her formal experience, I beg your pardon, in education dates back about 20 years, but her studied preparation goes back much farther. She has earned master's diploma in journalism and communication from Symbiosis, Bachelor of Education from University of Pune, Masters of Science from the University of Sikkim, and PhD in Analytical Study of Teaching Pedagogy from the University of Tonga. To her credit, she has been recognized and awarded with Indian Humanitarian Award 2020, 50 Most Influential Principals of India 2019, Best Principal Award 2019 for contribution to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and many more. She actively promotes a passion for learning by collaborating interstate and national workshops, speaking at conferences, and serving on committees to innovate strategic educational answers. She researches and publishes educational strategies and even hosts multiple collaborative pieces of training and workshops for numerous organizations, including the CBSE board. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for making the time. We also have with us Dr. Vidukesh Vimal. Dr. Vimal has had a distinguished academic career with a PhD and MPhil from the University of Delhi, a B.Ed from the Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. His MA was from the Hindu College and BA Honours from Hansraj College, Delhi University. He has taken a course in student residential care from Australia, has a certificate in school management and leadership from Harvard Business School and Harvard Graduate School of Education, together with an international postgraduate certificate in education from the University of London Institute of Education and a certificate in pastoral care from the UK Boarding School Association. He has had special education needs training from Mumbai. Dr. Vimal is currently heading the Assam Valley School since September 2019. He is of the firm belief that in the 21st century, when knowledge is changing so rapidly, it is very important that skills such as collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and character are developed in each child. At the Assam Valley School, where student voice is part of everyday life, it is but natural that the students there develop these skills and develop into responsible and confident young adults. So, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for gracing this platform. We also have with us Mrs. Dyutimani Chandran, who is an academic and operations auditor. She herself did her MSc in marine biology, a PGDBM, and a B.Ed. She's had 9 years experience as a school academic and operations auditor, A freelancer for the past 3 years, she is also a member of the Academic Assessment and Guidance Team, Central Chinmaya Mission Trust Education Cell. She also conducts trainings and workshops for school teachers, students, and parents from time to time. She is an educationist with over 40 years of experience as an educator, principal, and academic auditor of some of the best schools in New Delhi, Agra, and Qatar. She conducts school academic audits both within and outside the country. She has over 20 years of experience in comprehensive senior management positions, including founder principal of GD Goenka World School in Sona, Haryana, for both CBSE and International Baccalaureate streams, and Prelude Public School in Agra. Her expertise lies in recruitment, induction, training of both soft skills and academics, and evaluation of staff and introduction of long-term procedures and systems. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for bringing your wealth of experience to this platform. I shall stop my share now. I would request all the panelists to kindly switch on their cameras and unmute themselves. Dr. Dhamdere, Dr. Vimal, Mrs. Chandran, thank you so much for being here today. Mrs. Chandran, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect, ma'am.
Can you
Thank
hear
so
me?
much. Yes, ma'am. We can hear you. We can't see you yet.
Just a sec. Just a sec. Let me come there. Right. How command?
No problem. We'll just wait for your camera to switch on. Dr. Dhamdar, if I may come to you first. First of all, very good evening and thank you for being here. Ma'am, in your opinion, how important is humor for a teacher in the classroom?
Humor is an integral part of our lives. And I don't know, as I was reading a little bit about humor, because I find that a little bit of laughter is important in whatever you do. And I do find that it actually inspires and connects two people together, whether it be children and the adult, or in between two colleagues as well. So I, even as a leader, I do not believe in a very stern kind of leadership. I always kind of like to have the lighter conversation with all my teammates and my teachers and my students as well. I don't know how many schools, but my schools, we do have stand-up comedians, and we do have them representing our school outside as well. And children have turned up into good stand-up comedians, and also considering as a career maybe in the near future. So something like that, I think humor has a very good connect. Whenever I am talking to my children, I always like to narrate it through stories, because stories, I think, young, old, whoever, stories are always dear to the heart. So there was this woman who was at a near-death experience, and she was lying on the operation in the operation theater on the table, and a near-death experience, and she kind of sees God, and she asks, "Is my time over?" So the God says, "Oh no, you have a good 43 years left with you, and you are going to live." She is very happy, and obviously the operation is successful and she is out. And now that she knows, because God himself has told her that she's going to live for another 43 years, oh, she cannot find time to live up to the maximum that she has. So she's thinking that while I'm in the hospital, why not make the most of it? So she gets all her jobs done, and she gets a trimming operation done. She gets a good nose job done, and everything that is possible. And she even goes up to the extent of calling a beautician to the hospital and getting her hair done and all that. And then when she's finally better and recovered, she moves out of the hospital. She's crossing the road to go home. She is hit by an ambulance, and then again she's standing in front of God. And then she asked God, "You just told me I had 43 years. And God said, "Oh my God, I didn't recognize you. You've changed so much." So kind of little stories. Yes, there is a message also going through it, but yes, there is a lot of laughter, and even a smile, I think, does count to relieve your stress, kind of. So I always believe in the three philosophies that are there, that are related to humor. These are right from the ancient times, that we are believing that the superiority theory that you say, that when a person, even Aristotle for that matter, in those times believed that when you feel superior, then only you can laugh. If you are not superior or you don't feel superior, then maybe you cannot laugh and you cannot, have that kind of a laughter or a humor attitude. Then incongruity theory, which also says that, when something happens surprisingly, so obviously, that impromptu laughter and the humor that is there. And today what we believe it is a relief theory, where humor is more to relieve stress. And yes, it is a good stress buster. And the times that we've been through recently, so I think coming up with the stand-up comedies and having inspiration series and things, what I've done to connect with my students and to get the lighter part out. I always believe that yes, gone are the days when a teacher had to be really, really serious and she had to have that look on her face. Gone are the days, and I think it is time that we always have a smile, have a joke or to share with our colleagues, with our students, and start a day in that manner. And I think it goes a long way to building a relationship and also in remembering things.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very interestingly, you brought up the stand-up comedians. Incidentally, the stand-up comedian, the professional one, Anshu Moore, happens to be a college senior. He and I went to the same college. And he, before becoming a stand-up comedian, was the national head of the Xbox business for Microsoft, which is a fairly senior role in industry. The college had never listed him as a famous alumnus. He became a stand-up comedian. Today, he makes the honor roll as a famous alumnus. So they are really important right now. Dr. Vimal, thank you so much for being here. So, same question to you. We just heard some fantastic stories from Bharat sir. Your experience with
How
humor.
much time I have to answer the question? Accordingly, I'll bring the stories. Yeah.
So we will keep this a fluid discussion, but please go for the stories. Yes, all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So look, let me begin by saying, the different professions have different challenges. But if you look at the teaching profession, the most interesting aspect of teaching is, if you say, take teacher as a service provider or somebody who's engaged as a professional, fine, and someone who's at the receiving end of your services. But the age difference is not that so huge, fine. And that's why the student and the teachers, they belong to two different zones. They belong to two different worlds, fine. And I personally feel that the humor or this particular thing allows you to merge these two zones. Otherwise, many times what happens as a student, you look at a teacher in a different perspective. You look at a teacher in a kind of where the teacher is carrying the aura, and in that aura, and there's a shield around the teacher. You won't be able to say enter that aura. And when especially if you're in a residential school, and if you are not able to reach closer to the teacher, then maybe content may be delivered, but learning won't happen. Syllabus may be completed, but learning won't happen, because learning is not about just getting the syllabus done. Because learning is more about kind of understanding, developing the skills, developing the critical thinking, developing all kind of stuff. And that's why I personally feel that it's very, very important for teachers and for schools, principals to kind of encourage such environment where you kind of go for humor and lighter moments in class. That's number one thing. Number two thing, which is again very important, it also talks about the teacher. If I go, like say his confidence, definitely many people talk about that, but there are other things as well. Like say how mindful is the person? Because humor and kind of these things are in a class, in a teaching. You don't borrow humor from say jokes, internet jokes, WhatsApp jokes. You don't borrow all these things. These things need to be very organic, very relatable, and from that context. If you're not mindful, then you won't be able to create that, such moments, fine. And the same thing goes with understanding the context is so important. For a teacher, fine, that at a particular context, how the teacher is going to kind of talk about the same thing. And that makes it very, very different, and it allows everyone to kind of merge together. If I give you example, like a very, very interesting example, I used to normally do when a D form boy D form boy, that means grade 7 boy, when he used to join school, you know, I used to play huge amount of prank because they are new, they are homesick, they don't know exactly. And the most important part was how to settle them in the class. And at the same time, ensure that because they're looking at you in awe, fine, because they're doing school master and that kind of stuff, you know, that way. When I was a kind of subject teacher, then the most important thing was to connect with these guys. And I used to kind of, you know, like as simple as this. I remember that, no, I used to play this prank. Look, boys, we are going to bluff the headmaster today, and we are not going to study today, huh? So let's bluff the headmaster. And they are too excited that this teacher is teaching us how to bluff the headmaster. And I'll say, okay, let's bluff it. Let's change the table side. I know where you're sitting, you are changing the side, and we all will hide under the table, fine, and under the desk. So we are sitting under the desk, all D former, chutuputus, and then you are from there, you are kind of teaching. But I said, look, from the top now, because half thing is glass door, and from there headmaster will see, and headmaster will say, oh my God, where the class, where the students have gone, and we will tell, look, we were not studying, we were just bunking the class today. So that basic things. I still remember one D form, how you connect with, you know, one D form boy, he came running towards my house one day. I was just standing outside my house, and this boy came running and said, and he was looking a little confused. I said, son, what are you looking for? He said, sir, I went for midterm, and before that my house was here, and I'm looking for my boarding house. I said, oh my God, you are a new boy. And then I asked his name. I said, great. And then we did all the feast thing. I said, look, I will tell you something very confidential. We have to take the school pledge that you are not going to share the story outside. He took the school pledge, kept his hand on the lamp. And after that, I said, look, for the security reason, all the buildings, they revolve in the campus. So your house was here only 7 days back when you came. But now house has moved around 150 degrees, that 150 meters that side. So it has gone to that side. I can take you to your house, but remember, and don't tell anybody about it, huh? The boy bought that idea, house moving. And after almost a month, again, same boy was standing outside my house, and you know, he was with the guard, and guard brought him to me and said, sir, pata nahi baba kya bol raha hai, what he's saying. He's saying that, you know, kind of school, everyone is, where is my building? My building moved. I went to hospital, and now I can't find my building. And I told that boy the same thing. Don't worry about it. It's almost a month now. The cycle has completed in a month. I will take you to your place. And when the boy was leaving the school, grade 12, he came to me. We got ourselves clicked in front of both the buildings. And he said, sir, this is something I'll remember. Because this is very, very interesting thing. You know, it allows you to diffuse tension also. You know, whether in your classroom or outside classroom. It allows you to kind of diffuse, like say, for example, I always used to use this line, like say, for example, someone hasn't done the homework, and after say couple of repetitions, couple of reminders, still someone is not submitting the homework. Normal response of a teacher is, teacher will start shouting. Teacher will start kind of going into punishment mode. All kind of stuff will happen. But if you look at mindfully, the teacher is basically feeling helpless and showing anger. Fine, the emotion is anger in terms of outburst and outlook, but the inner thing is helplessness because teacher is unable to do anything about it. And my way of dealing with such issues is very simple. I just, oh, I'm so sorry, son. I should have asked you for your schedule. I should have checked your schedule accordingly. I should have, kind of given you the homework. I'm so sorry about it that I didn't check your schedule. So please, may I have your evening schedule? Accordingly, I will decide when to give you the homework or not. And I'm so sorry about it that I didn't check your schedule last week. And the child will say, no, sir, sorry, sir, all kind of stuff will happen. But immediately you are dealing with that situation. I was like, say, master in charge cricket, fine. So once what happened, one guy was just going left, right, center, bowling balls like anywhere, fine, not on the wicket, but anywhere. And I was like, this was important match going on. During the this thing, what do you call it? Drinks break. I asked the umpire and I went inside. And I said, beta, I think the pitch curator, the guys now, they have put in the wicket at the wrong place. Let me take out these wickets and keep it here. Now, because he was bowling on the 6th, 7th, and 8th stump, I shifted the wicket. I said, I think now you will be able to bowl in the right place, because it was not your mistake at all. The wickets are placed at the right, on the wrong thing. You need to shift it. So when you take such examples, when you take such situation in that way, it allows you as teacher to diffuse tension. And the last and very important thing, as I said, in life, you do so many mundane things. But when you add humor to that, it becomes story. And you remember those things. You remember everything, whatever been done like that. It's very, very important to create stories through humor. Like, I'll give you an example. It's as simple as this. In our boarding house, very simple thing used to happen. Like, people are coming to collect the night calf. It's a very mundane thing that you come, you will take the keys, you will pick up the night calf, and you'll go and distribute it. But when I was the housemaster, this was not the case. You have to come in file, and you have to shout 1 through 1, 1 to 1. You will stop, and all the junior ones, they'll say, and then one will come and say, sorry to disturb you at this hour, sir. The battalion is ready for the calf, sir, Shriman. And this line has to be said. And I said, yes, great. Thank you very much. Easy, aram se. That was the word used in the army. I say, aram se. Now you can collect the thing, and they will take it. And it became such a story that when I was leaving, they did an honor march for me. Whole house did on that night. That 1 to 1 came, march stopped. The house captain came. House captain asked me, so battalion's ready to take the calf. So the point is, you create these stories out of it. That's very important. And the last, I think what Mr. Barrett talked about is a very interesting thing, that the confidence to allow people to laugh at you. There's a very interesting tradition which was there at that place. And I was very fond of that because I featured in all 13, 14 editions of that. That's called S-Form Entertainment. That means grade 11 boys are copying all the masters in a particular day, the last day of grade 11, right? And I featured in all 13, 14 editions. But the point is, and they used to call the families, they will go and request the families to give you certain kind of things so that you look like them. This is very important that, it allows the families to come together, because in a residential school, your families can't be a separated entity. Otherwise, you will be stressed as a teacher. You will be stressed as a teacher that how much time you will be in a hurry to say work in one environment and move to another world. Your world needs to be one. You can't be living in two worlds of home and school. In boarding school, your life is one, and that's why it allows you to connect, and then everything is connected, everything is together, and at the end of the day, you have stories to share. You have the moments where you have gone wrong, still you remember those things. And as a teacher, as a housemaster, as I said, it allows everyone to understand and diffuse those tense moments, because you come across so many tense moments. You come across so many situations where, it gives you an alternative, if I may say. It gives you an alternative of response, how you're going to respond to that particular thing. And this is how you become a mature individual. Very mature individual, because it allows you to be mature, to respond, because humor, I personally feel, is a sign of maturity, because it's a sign of confidence, it's a sign of maturity, that your responses, because those who react, they can't crack the moments of humor. They can't create moments of humor. It also talks about the mindfulness. It also talks about the presence of mind. It also talks about the sense of timing. I think put together is a very interesting journey, and I hope that you may find some sense out of this. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I would have loved to kind of be there and watch your students ripping off on you. But yes, I am sure those are very, very fond memories from your previous school. Mrs. Chandran, if I may come to you next, ma'am. You've had a very long career. You've been associated with multiple institutions in various forms. How important do you think humor is within the classroom as part of the teaching learning process?
Okay, let me look at it from a slightly different perspective. When I was a student years back, Our generation never had a problem, or I would say that we had a lot of freedom in the classroom. The teachers and the students, we had a lot of freedom. Things changed over a period of time because the focus changed. When I was a student, my parents weren't really bothered about the number, that's the marks that I got. They knew if I am doing well, if I am a happy child, then everything is fine. Now our focus, schooling, the focus moved from there to marks. And now slowly we are realizing that there are more things to learning. Okay. And I think for the past maybe 2 decades, we were talking about humor at workplace. And there's, a lot of seminars and workshops and things going on because we have realized the stress factor that is creating problems in a home environment also. We can't just take a classroom alone and say that, okay, we teach children in this classroom and everything ends here. We have to talk about these children going back to their homes and coming back next day a happier person. Let us look at a home environment right now. Father goes for work, mother goes for work, children, they go to school. Father comes back home. Of course, all of us, we get back home. And the general trend is the mother asks the father, how was your day today? So it's invariably, oh, it was really stressful, a lot of work. I couldn't complete my target. This colleague of mine, he wasn't cooperating. My boss, he was in a foul mood, whatever it is. Anyway, I couldn't meet my targets and I'm not at all happy. Now, mom tells the child, see, Papa didn't have a really good day today. So let's leave him to take care of himself, let him relax, and that's it. The same scene with the mother also, she also might have had a good day, a bad day, whatever it is. But how many of us do we ask the children, what was your day like? Okay. Now, on a day when the father is happy, he comes back and says, oh, today was a wonderful day. Everything went off well. I could complete everything on time. And even my boss, he was so happy. We cracked jokes. And then, he said good things. Today was a good day. Now, that's the day when the wife also says, oh, thank God. Let's have some personal time together. Let's enjoy this evening together. Now, just imagine you ask your child the same question and the child comes back home and tells you, oh, Mama, we had loads of fun in the school. It was a lovely day. And believe me, 90% of father, mother will ask the question, does it mean that you didn't have any studies in the school? Because we still, I'm being very honest, we still cannot link learning to fun. It very often happens that children who are stressed at school, they go back home stressed. And they do not get the kind of support that they get there. So next morning, they come back with more stress, more insecurity. Let me talk about another scene, where, of course, I was a student first who enjoyed my school time thoroughly because there were hardly any restrictions on us. And as I said, 40 marks in 100 was perfect with us. If we went to the next class and next class and next class, and then if we got into college and got the degree, admission for the degree which we really wanted to do. In a school corridor, I had been a teacher, then I had been a coordinator and head of departments, and then head of departments, then headmistress and principal, and then academic auditor. We have this habit of taking rounds. And we make it a point that we don't do it in the same direction, or we don't do it at the same time every day. Because what we are wanting to look at is something slightly different. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the other panelists might have a different way to put it. Now, what happens is when I go on a round, one of those rounds, if I pass by a classroom, and if there is a lot of laughter in the class, if the children are talking, and if the teacher is also talking, and there is reasonably loud noise, I wouldn't say that it's not enough to distract the other class, I, as a coordinator, will have my own doubts about, is anything happening in the class? So when classroom like this, I tend to come back. I tend to just open the door to see whether everything is fine, because I still can't really agree that lots of laughter and fun and freedom can still let children learn if the teacher is handling it in the right way. Now, when we pass by, if the class is very quiet, the whiteboard has a display of whatever is happening. The teacher is very serious. The children are all sitting quiet. Everything is fine. Then I walk past the class, telling myself that there is learning happening there. Now, this is an attitude. I'm not talking about individuals here, okay? I have to tell you that I was a slightly different teacher, coordinator, head. So I always fought with my management that, I would like to have lots of noise in my corridors, in my play fields, in my classrooms, as long as learning is happening. And people did believe in me and my team. I will not say that it was me alone. I always managed to get the right team who stood by me, and we could make life easy for children. In a classroom, we can't always have, I do agree that we can't always have humorous conversations, especially like, I'm a biology teacher. And I have taught from grade 6 to grade 12. And every year I had to teach human reproduction in detail to grade 6 to grade 9. Now, that is the teenage group. And every year, in spite of teaching for so many years, the same topic, every year I had to do that extra preparation, mental preparation, not my subject knowledge, to make sure that this is the way I'm going to handle my class. Because in front of me, I have this large group of children or all adolescents with so many changes happening in their physical and mental and emotional scene. And that's a class. If I am unable to handle that class well, with a straight face, answering all the questions, the whole scene goes for a 6. Now, those are classes where you just can't have humor at all. You have to just teach, you have to tell them the facts, and then you have to get out. But in general, when we talk about humor in classroom, I believe that humor, the bottom line is that it has to be appropriate to the context and appropriate to the age group that we are dealing with. That is very important. And offensive humor is a big, big no. Any physical references? In every classroom, again, we have these one odd child in a classroom where the child believes that he or she is asking the right questions. And he or she will raise a hand, ask a question, and maybe on day 1, when that child asked that question, the teacher would have laughed, because teacher would have found that question to be very irrelevant or I'm sorry to use the word stupid. Now, when the teacher laughs, it gives the rest of the class an opportunity to know that if the teacher is doing it, then we can also do it. Then over the year, what happens is the moment this particular child stands up or raises a hand, the whole class reaction puts him down. This is not human. Of course, the children are laughing, the teacher is laughing. Is it humor? It's not human. So the teachers have to realize that they should not cross that our Ramayan's famous Lakshman Rekha within the boundary. And the teacher makes the children also realize that when a teacher does that, the children also learn to be like that. So humor is something, we should not talk about put downs. We should not talk about physical inabilities. We should not talk about appearances. We should not talk about children who are not as bright as they should be. If these things are taken care of, I strongly believe that humor has a huge role. I'm also a great fan of R.K. Lakshman. When his cartoons used to come in Times of India as You Said It, the common man, You Said It. I used to love it and even used to take it to my classroom and associate things that is related to what he's talking about. He talks about such huge things in such a simple way, and the common man stands in the corner. He doesn't know whether to wonder, whether to laugh, whether to hide, whatever it is, So humor has a place, but it all depends on the teacher who uses it at the right place, in the right context, with the right motive. That's what I believe in.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think if I could, take a stab at, summing this up, you're saying that humor is this extremely powerful tool, and then obviously with great power comes that great responsibility bit as well. Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Vimal, if I may come to you next, I think ma'am touched upon this very interesting idea that when you are walking by a class and there is a lot of noise coming, it's kind of natural to assume that it's ruckus and not fun learning that's happening. And this is particularly true for parents, right? If they hear that children talking about a particular teacher being funny throughout, does that respect go down a little bit? Do they not trust that teacher as much?
Are you asking me?
I was just talking to Dr. Vimal. We'll come back to you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Look, Shiva, you asked a very pertinent question, and that's why it's very important to understand that from where this thought comes, because the whole concept of indiscipline, that noise is equal to indiscipline, is what restricts our Indian education system. Fine, and why this happens, because sometimes we are limited by say the exposure we got as students. And this is exactly the way we were taught that remaining quiet is a sign of discipline. And when you are talking, when you are kind of, say noise is coming, and all kind of stuff. And that's why I would like to take this situation to a theater. And that's it allows you to understand a little better. On theater, what happens is a huge amount of noise and ruckus happens. Say you are creating a riot scene on the stage. And there's a noise, but that noise is very measured. It's created by someone. It's managed by someone. That's why I'll use the word managed, not controlled. Fine. So in any class, if the teacher is managing the noise, fine. And that's why it's all about, kind of allowing the teacher to have this confidence that no one will come and look into my class. It's all about then that, allowing the teachers to manage that situation, how it's going to happen. Fine. And that's why I use the word, don't borrow things from outside. Your humor needs to be very much organic from the situation so that it is adding to the learning, rather than kind of coming as an item song in the classroom. Fine, that you're kind of bringing it, which is very beautiful. It adds all kind of stuff, but it doesn't take the story anywhere. So whatever you are doing in the class, if that is taking the story to the next level, and here when I say story, that means you're teaching, you're learning, your overall whatever you want to do as an academic professional in that class, I don't see any reason that your respect will go down. Number one. Number two, in fact, it allows the class to kind of deliver and find alternative. That's why I use the word alternative, to solve and do something differently. It is one of the alternative. I'm not saying it is the only alternative, but it is one of the alternative. I'll just give you an example. I was teaching one of the poetries in Hindi at that time, and it's written in Braj. Fine. Braj is a language which today's kids, they haven't read too much, they don't know, but it's about Sudas and it's about Sudama and Krishna's story. What I told the kids, look, this is the gist, this, but now you do a little bit of research on this situation, create a play, and you're allowed to have your own language, you're allowed to have your own kind of dialogues, fine, so that at the end of the day, you understand what exactly happened. So there's kids, they use I still remember one line, when Sudama lies to Krishna that, no, I'm not eating anything, don't worry, my teeth is moving due to cold and all kind of stuff. And the Krishna's dialogue, rather than saying, acha theek hai, okay, and then he asks, bro, jhoot to nahi bol raha. And that kind of stuff. There's one line which kind of allows everyone to, and the whole class understood what Krishna was asking. So what happens if your humor is blended with the, say, learning outcomes, your say pedagogy, and that is organic? I don't see any reason. In fact, it allows students to connect with the teachers, and it allows you to a different kind of relationship. I will never forget, I'll tell you, that's what I'm saying. Again, it has to be organic. I'll give you an example. Once what happened, one particular boy, he came to my house and he wished me on Diwali, he wished me happy Holi. In his, he was a young boy, grade 8, he wished me, sir, happy Holi. I said, son, either you add belated happy Holi and you add happy Holi in advance, because exactly 6 months after the Holi today, or the Holi is after 6 months from this particular festival. But the relationship, what we built on that day, from that day till he passed grade 12, we used to talk everything opposite. Like if it is morning, he will say, hello, sir, hi, good night, sir, take care. And we will talk like this. But it doesn't mean that we are compromising on less, but it allows him to come little closer to me. He says, now they're like going for the first class, and he says, sir, I'm going for the toy. A toy is the evening prep, which you do in a boarding school in Doon. So he said, I'm going for the toy, sir, and after the self-study, I'll come for dinner. So that kind of stuff, but it has to be organic, which needs to be understood in that context. And I'm pretty sure that it doesn't, and in fact, it takes huge amount. And if I may say a very interesting thing, I was thinking to know, okay, I missed out. It allows the student to see the teachers as human beings. It allows you to see, otherwise what happens? Sometimes we carry the aura of a very different kind of individual. And when they don't see you as humans and you are playing a character, what happens? You won't be able to play it for a very long time, especially when you are in a residential school, because you can't be 24/7 to your aura of, very, kind of a certain kind of look, certain kind of stuff. And it kind of, gives them the kind of, say, break away, because they will be shocked to see you in a different kind of perspective when they see you in the evening or in your house or with your family and all kind of stuff. So when you're using humor in your classroom teaching and different places, it allows them to see you as a human being, and that humanism overall ensures that there's a connect and there's a relationship, and that is the essence of education at the end of the day. Because to borrow the words from Ken Robinson, he said teaching and learning is nothing but a relationship between student and teacher.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. What I'm understanding is you kind of talking about the journey of Amitabh Bachchan of Mohabbatein to Amir Khan of Tare Zameen Par. I think that's the spectrum. Dr. Dhamdar, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, have you ever had a problem managing the parents' perception of a teacher in this respect?
Uh,
Do parents look at teachers differently? Ma'am, your camera is off.
yes. I'm so sorry. I had
No
to
problem.
rush for something, so I'm in my car. Please don't mind.
No problem.
Parents, I think the perspective is changing slowly, because today parents have a kind of different perspective. So earlier, yes, like ma'am said, that if the child says I had fun in school, so the parent was thinking whether you actually learned anything or no. So that used to be a concern. But today, the parents do find the difference in learning and having fun, and the kind of learning that takes place while the children actually have fun and then learn, because that learning stays with the children longer. So yes, earlier there was, but today I do see a difference in the attitude of the parents. And yes, they do understand that with humor and with a little bit of fun, the learning that happens goes a long way.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And sorry for disturbing while you're driving. Please drive safely.
No, not at all. I'm sorry, because I just had to
No problem,
rush for
ma'am.
something.
No problem at all. Mrs. Chandran, in personal opinion, I have seen that parents of younger kids, right, the primary school kids, for them humor is okay, humor is good. The moment you go to the classes 11 and 12, and particularly maths and science, the teachers are somehow, the parents have this expectation that the teacher would be this very strict, very stoic personality. Ma'am, where does this stem from? Where does this come from?
Okay. See, from my experience, I will give you two totally different examples. Okay, so things that happened in my different schools where I worked. In one school, there was this class. I think many schools we have this habit of not a habit, a system of putting all real naughty ones, troublesome ones in one section of the class, and we send the best teachers there to handle these children. Okay, so that was in this particular school also we had this system, and the children were quite mischievous, and their backgrounds are quite different, and they do talk back to the teachers and all that. So that particular class really needed teachers with those unseen canes. So that was the situation, and we had many teachers going to those classes, and the classes were monitored very frequently because we wanted results, we wanted change. Now, one of the teachers, in all the other classes, the children were very quiet. They were quite scared because they knew that they will be reported to the next level and next level if they breathe heavily, if they do something, if they throw a paper ball and things like that. The children knew about it. So they will all sit straight in the classroom, and I was academic auditor for the group school, so I used to visit that school. So I used to go to the classes when these teachers are teaching, and then it's perfect silence and children take down notes and all, good scene happening. So I was happy, oh, this is what's happening. Now, this particular teacher, or only with one teacher, this class had real noise. Okay, they make noise for the first 5-10 minutes. And, this I have seen in kindergarten. Where when the children make a lot of noise, the teacher raises her hand and does 1, 2, 3, with her mouth. And then when the 5, the whole class settles. This I have seen happening in kindergarten, but I saw this happening in 11th grade IGCSE in one of the schools. Okay, the first 10 minutes was total fun in the sense the teacher and the children, they laughed, they did whatever they wanted. Now, that 10 minutes, if I passed by that classroom, I would have thrown out the teacher and the children together. Okay. Now, me being an academic auditor, I have to wait for evidences and results and all those things. I waited, and believe me, in that particular subject, the children scored maximum because they loved the teacher, they loved the subject, they loved the freedom and the trust that the teacher had in those children. Their results were exceptionally good. And the parents, they came back next year and told us, please, please put our children in this particular teacher's class. Okay. I will give you another example in another school where, again, since we are talking about 11th graders, there was this brand new teacher. She just passed out. She was married very recently, so they moved in and then she came to the school. And 11th graders, we know 11th graders, as we all know, you know, happy young people who have got 1,000 marks in their 10th, and they believe that, you know, if I could get all A pluses in 10th, 11th is like nothing, and in 12th they will start really worrying about what they are going to do with their life. Okay. Now, this particular teacher, she was so much interested in teaching, so she wanted to be popular with the kids. She didn't know how she will do it. So she started, you know, like with first 1 week was very miserable for her because the children won't let her open her mouth and talk and all that. But then after that, she started talking to them and then telling them these little anecdotes. Okay, it was like she didn't know how to reach out to these children. So the anecdotes started off with like, you know, yesterday when I was in the market with my husband, I saw you there. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, I was there. Oh, was it your husband who was with you? And, you know, then over the next couple of weeks, the teacher, unfortunately, the teacher felt that the children are really getting closer to her and then listening to her. But the Lakshman Rekha we talked about, she actually crossed the Lakshman Rekha, and her 1-point agenda was to be popular with the children. And there things went wrong. She started, you know, in the classroom, the discussions became more personal. And of course, the boys did not open their mouth much to their parents, but the girls started feeling slightly embarrassed. They went home, they spoke to the parents, and then parents definitely got really worried about the whole situation. They put their foot down, and you know, things reached a stage where we had to move that teacher from that school because the damage was already done. Now that is, I gave you two examples of dealing with children. One thing, this particular teacher, I have a feeling, of course, I spoke to her later, she didn't have the confidence which a teacher should have. If you have that confidence, like the other school, the 11th grader teacher who gave that 10 minutes of freedom, and after that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the whole class is in line, ready to learn. If you have that trust in children and have that confidence in ourselves, it's perfectly fine. And parents are quite aware. I can't blame them, quite demanding, because they know what they want for their children. But lately, what I have noticed is that maybe 20 years back, every year after the academic year, when the next year starts, the parents keep asking, who is going to be my daughter's class teacher? You know, that last year's teacher was very strict, so let her continue to be. Please, ma'am, please promote her to that particular class. But over the years, I have noticed that scene has changed. Parents really look forward to teachers who are more friendly, more adaptive, and more supportive of their children. So they no more want that strict teacher of whom their children are scared. What they are looking at is someone who will be there with my child. Let my child have some fun. At the same time, take my child along with her to reach the right destination. That's what I think.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for giving us better examples than my uneducated examples of Amitabh Bachchan and Amir Khan. That's something I'm genuinely thankful for. The last question, ma'am, I'll come to you first, ma'am. Where today a lot of schools have a certain section of children with special needs who are part of the regular school system, and that's a great thing. In special schools where teachers are perhaps equipped to handle these kids, obviously with varying degrees of severity of conditions, humor is seen to be a great way to connect. A child with maybe a child with Down syndrome would typically not connect with somebody who's very stern or strict, but would easily open up to somebody who's using humor. Where do you see, ma'am, humor as a tool to reach out to children with special needs?
Okay. Here we are talking about children who are part of the inclusive education system,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. One thing that I have noticed, I feel, because I had been working with visually impaired children for a very long period of time, almost 30 years I worked with them, and I closely interact with them, so I know how their mind works. I think that's the same with the hearing impaired children and also other children with special needs. Basically, what I feel is the strong area to connect with a teacher for a child with special needs is communication. Everything else comes outside that. If a teacher is able to communicate with the child one-to-one, then that will help the child in developing confidence in the teacher and what the teacher is guiding the child to do. So it's very important, the teaching techniques. We know that in a classroom, in an inclusive classroom, we have to have differentiated learning happening for these children. We have to have mentors in the classroom for these children in itself. We may have to have mentor teachers coming from outside. We may have to have students themselves who act as their partners and things. But the first line of defense has to be communication, because these children, they closely observe the teacher. If and when the teacher walks into the classroom, if she has a smile on her face, the whole scene changes for the child. If the teacher walks into the class with a stern face, for whatever reason, she may have her personal problems, may have work-related stress, the child can connect. Unlike the normal child who will be able to sort of assess the situation, these children, they very closely watch their teachers, their body language, their movements, the way they talk, the modulation of their voice. So if their voice is raised, the child suddenly closes in, because the child doesn't know whether the teacher is actually angry with the child. So humor really works with these children. Because, a smiling face, I think anyone, special needs, no special needs, a smiling face, a cheerful person, and a positive attitude. So humor has a lot of role to play in integrating learning in this inclusive situation. That's what I think.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much. Dr. Vimal, if I may ask you that same question. So you've undergone formal training with special needs children. So you're the resident expert right now.
Thank you very much. In fact, look, ma'am has covered beautifully one thing, and that's because communication is important, right? and to build the communication channel. If you just understand a little bit of communication theory, that is source is the individual, and then the receiver the child, and it keep changing, because sometimes you are the source, sometimes they are the source, you are the receiver. In normal conversation this happens, it's just interchanging. It doesn't remain fixed that you are the source of communication and someone is all the time receiving. So that's why, to make it this communicate, otherwise one way information being shared, fine. To turn any conversation, any situation to a where communication is happening, this interchange is required. And I think humor, as I said in the beginning, humor allows the teacher to break that aura, because your age, in no profession, that your client and somebody who's providing the service, the age difference is so much. Right? There's a huge difference. Like you go to any other field, you are dealing with almost same kind of, you are dealing with adult, at least both of them, except the say medical areas where you're dealing with such thing. Majority of the profession you are dealing with adults, but here adult is dealing with someone who's a minor, maybe 5-year-old, maybe 10 years, or say in that way. So this connect this to bring that particular person, receiver, to that level where the communication starts. Humor is important. Because a smile allows you, because when you are smiling, you will never see anyone refusing, because smile wins hearts. No, it allows you to connect with people. It allows you to ensure that someone who's going to respond immediately to your smile. And the moment the response is happening, communication started. So that's very important part. Number two thing, which is again, with say special needs children, not only special needs, I'll say that those who are low achiever, those who are not very high level of say learning difficulty, those are very kind of low in confidence, self-esteem, low in say their confidence and all kinds of stuff. It works wonders with such students as well, because it allows you to ensure that you are non-judgmental, because as I said, humor gives you an alternative to deal with a situation. So when you have this alternative, you are dealing it differently, rather than being judgmental about someone's ability, someone's kind of and that's why you take the whole situation. Say for example, a child somehow put himself or herself in trouble, or say in a situation where he or she should not have done that or said that, due to the limitations of their learning abilities. But then as a teacher, if you have the ability to kind of connect that humor, you will take the same situation from embarrassment to a laughter, embarrassment to something else, which will allow the child to have that cushion. So humor works as a cushion in the classroom for such children. And you crack something, and rather than saying that well tried, well done, this is not correct, no, you take it like different, differently, different world, and in a different way, so that the child will also feel, oh, sir has saved me, like from this particular situation. So this cushioning is something again which allows learning, because you are then feeling safe. And for such children, being able to feel safe in an environment is the most important thing. The moment they will feel insecure, the moment they will feel threatened, no learning will happen. And that's why it's up to the institution, up to the teachers, up to the heads to create that thing, and you allow that in a very subtle manner. But as I said, that you have to be organic in whatever you do. That has to be organic. It should not come as a kind of something from outside. And many teachers, because unfortunately teachers, they take themselves so seriously, because the understanding the social norm is is always, norms are more stronger than anything else. The social norms tells you that teacher means very serious, a certain look, certain kind of eye gazing, certain body language. And the moment you are not like that, you are not a teacher. Fine. And that's why unfortunately in our society, I'm talking in terms of Indian context, our teachers are a little too serious about themselves. I always feel that we need to serious about our job, but that doesn't mean that you need to kind of mask yourself with seriousness. with the lighter smiling face, with lighter, kind of approach towards something, you can still be serious about your work. So the moment that happens, automatically you are going to create a setup and learning scenario where everyone from special child to somebody who is low achiever, both will benefit from your presence in the class. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we are overshooting our time limit, so we'll have to bring this to a close. Once again, thank you so much for making the time and being here today. We all stand enriched for the stories and everything that you shared. I will invite Achin for the vote of thanks, but before that, I'll be amiss if I did not pay my gratitude to somebody who's on the attendance panel today. Mrs. Chandana Shandal, who's on this panel today as an attendee, has been my Bengali teacher in school. Somebody with a very understated, self-deprecating brand of humor, but somebody whom I've never seen bringing any external stress, tensions into the classroom. As we grew up in school, we have all looked up to her for kind of bringing in humor, bringing in a very soothing feeling to the entire teaching learning process. And till date, it's been about 20 years since I've left school. Till date, her poems, her funny poems that she used to write for the school magazine, get shared around on social media and still gets appreciated. Ma'am, thank you so much for being our teacher. Achin, you'll have to do the vote of thanks for the others. So I'll leave this to you.
I think really a wonderful session, Shubhayu, I must say. Very seamless flow of thought. Bharat sir, thank you for giving us a great start and also for sharing some very nice incidents. I think some very interesting incidents and very, very appropriate for today's session. Dr. Rupali Dhamdere, I sincerely thank you, ma'am. Especially I saw that you were taking the, the entire session, especially the last part of it, even while driving. I really appreciate that. Hope, hope you've reached safely. I think two very important points you made, ma'am. One is the change in parents' perception. So this is something that we would all agree here, that yes, indeed, there has been a seismic shift in terms of, parents being far more receptive. I'll say, that revolution in terms of maturity that happens across democracies, across civilizations. And also, I think learning that, I think you made a very pertinent point that yes, learning in a fun-filled environment where people are more relaxed, definitely it goes a long way. So I think some very important points from your side. Sincerely, thank you, ma'am, for that. Chandan, ma'am, Ritumani Chandan, I think, ma'am, you really touched our heart when you spoke about the entire generational shift that going that full circle, starting from the times that when learning, education was far more fun-filled. It was not a rat race. So as you rightly pointed out, getting even 40 out of 100 and securing admission was good enough in a college. But the fact that many such students in later point of the career have been so successful, that goes on to prove that even without taking so much of extra pressure, indeed we can all excel in our individual professions. So I think those good old ways are definitely, ma'am, very relevant point. And also it goes on to prove the entire futility of this rat race. Another thing, I think, ma'am, when you spoke about the home environment, that's something which is indeed so relevant in this particular case. The kind of stress and then unhappiness that even spreads among children, and the need also to treat children, as adults, be responsive to their needs and ask them with regard to the fact that how was your day. I think that is very important. That's one of the takeaways of today's session, and I'm sure this stays with our esteemed educators. And ma'am, of course, we all agree with you when you say no offensive humor or physical references. That's a complete no. So I think some very good points. I sincerely thank you, ma'am, for your time, for gracing the platform, and for making these points. Ritukesh Vimal sir, thank you again. So whenever I've seen you in a webinar, I've always seen some great unique perspective you bring into the session. I was really enjoying your deliberations. I think, and you made a very valid point with regard to, I think, some very relevant points, especially with regard to the fact that in no other profession around the world, in any other profession, any industry, the age gap between the service provider and the service recipient naturally is not this large. So this, of course, makes it far more difficult, I'll say far more challenging for educators to be able to strike a bond, and especially communication channels play such an important role that sir you spoke about. I think, and also we'd all agree with you when you say that anger as an emotion really goes on to show any point of time, not only between a teacher student, but in any scenario of life, any scenario planning of life, goes on to say that how helpless we are when we exhibit emotions like anger. We should always be the last resort, of course, and creating stories through humor. And that incident of honor march for you was indeed very, very touching. I must say, very, very touching. Really, really felt very good to hear about this. And another point that you made, I think Birds also referred to that. We all agree being able to laugh at ourselves. That's a very unique quality. That's a very unique quality, but that is very important. If you are able to cultivate this, if you are able to nurture this amongst our students, amongst the next generation of leaders, naturally, this is going to go a long way towards ensuring that they're successful in whatever they do. So I think we really had a great session. I also thank members of the audience for their time here today, evening. We really look forward to your constant support in the sessions to come. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.